My third one is going to be Evan Mobley being able to space the floor and shoot in any regard. I think it would open up his game, and I think it would open up the Cavs offense so drastically if he could really knock down shots. And like for me, this is, let's just start with catch and shoots, right? Like if he could hit pull-ups, like holy shit, like he might be a top 10 player in the league at some point. But let's just start with catch and shoots. Like if Evan Mobley could knock down a corner three consistently, if he could knock down a wing three consistently, where when Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are running ball screens with Jared Allen, and you have Jared Allen diving to the rim, and you have an actual option to kick out to that is Evan Mobley, he becomes immediately the best third, fourth option in the league, I think, right?
Yeah, no, I like what you're saying. I think what's hard,
maybe not the best. Sorry, that might be. He'd at least be, if you're counting him as the fourth option, he's definitely the best fourth option.
Well, yeah, when you
third
consider
option,
what defensive impact and stuff is too. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think, I mean, it's tough because like right now he's very much in the state of like his best offensive skill is passing. And it gets a little bit muted sometimes being the four. Like I think when he and Jared are playing together, you see some really positive things. And like their big to big passing is always a blast. But I think part of the difficulty is with what their wing situation is. It's not that he's the only non-spacer out there. It's like, okay, well, we have to put you in the corner, and then we have somebody in the slot who's not a shooter either. So you're just going to get totally sagged off of, and people aren't going to worry about it. That's what makes it hard. I think they've done a lot of really fun stuff to watch from like a scheme perspective. Of they try and be very intentional about, getting him or Jared on the move if they're out in the corners, or like just doing stuff to try and not have to have them spaced up at all, but it happens every game. Like there's going to be moments where that happens. It's and what I was leading into too, like it's just tough with noting Scotty Barnes in the way that it's easy to like be like, oh well, I want this guy to be an all-star now when they have such high flashes of what they did in their freshman campaign. Cause like I can look at it and be like, okay, well, Scotty, his passing like the last 10, 15 games has hit another level.
Really
that has
good.
Been
really
exceptional
good
to watch. And obviously it's been a little bit like Toronto's still losing. Well, I mean, they've been playing a lot better recently, but they're still just where they're at in the standings. I think that's been a little bit lost in the sauce.
Well, and another thing on why I think it's been so good is that offense generally, I think, has more movement now. They've been using him a bit more as a screener recently, and then hitting him with pocket passes and letting him like get downhill before he gets the ball, and then be able to make processing reads on the fly. And, the offense actually has movement now because they're using Scotty more as the screener, I think, which is really valuable.
Yeah, I've really loved it. And then, I mean, just going off that with Evan, like it's tough because I feel like I've seen a lot of consensus of like, oh, Evan's not having a good year. It's not as good as last year. And I think it's hard just because the expectations get brought up, and that's not to say that people can't have opinions, but like he's meaningfully improved this year. It's just not quite as loud as I think people wanted. Like the 2-point percentage has improved drastically. And that's not just a stat thing. He's been a lot better finishing through contact. It's still like he still needs to get to a point where he doesn't always have to bring the ball down to go up with it, but he's gotten better with that on the roll this year. Just generally his finishing approach has been a lot stronger in all facets. That hasn't borne out in the jumper yet. I think I'm just glad that he's still trying it and doesn't seem like deterred by it at all. So there is good stuff there, but it's just with where the Cavs are right now, like it's hard to not look at it and be like, oh, well, what if? But exactly where you're at, like I think I very much believe in what his touch is and where it can get to, and I think that we're heading towards that, and that's the exciting stuff because he is by and large like probably my favorite prospect in the league. Just watching him play basketball is awesome to me.
Why is that? Explain that before we move forward here.
At least for me, like for how I've been watching basketball, he is legitimately the best rookie defender I'd seen. In watching basketball, and granted, I didn't start heavily watching basketball until 2017-18, but that's still, you're talking about a lot of freaking rookies who have come in and playing at a position that normally takes quite a few years to really acclimate as a defensive player. And then it's like bringing the passing too, because again, like you can look at the box score and be like, it's 2.7 assists per game, can't be that much. But his playmaking vision and just actual feel for the game and where to be and how to make himself available, like he's so good, he's so sound, and yeah, it's hard for me to not just love everything about watching that dude play basketball.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's like just hyper intelligent. The way he uses his length, the way he uses his processing ability, it's one of those things. I talked a little bit about this on the podcast, I think with Schlecht, where I talked about like Josh Giddey having a fast brain. Like Evan Mobley has a fast brain and has fast like limbs and quickness and speed and can get everywhere. And that's why he's everywhere. That's why he's everything everywhere all at once defensively. Right. Like it's really, 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 really impressive. I think he's going to win a defensive player of the year at some point. Like very, very confident on that. And look, the counting numbers were never going to go up this year. The team acquired fucking Donovan Mitchell. Like Donovan Mitchell's going to take possessions. There was never going to be a circumstance where Evan Mobley's counting numbers, Evan Mobley was not going to average 20 points a game this year. They have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland dribbling the ball in the backcourt. They have Jared Allen in the front court, who was an all-star last year. Like, you don't just acquire a ball-dominant shooting guard to play with your ball-dominant point guard and then have your second-year power forward see a drastic increase in his counting numbers. Mm-hmm. I saw what I think you're referring to Kendrick Perkins. Like I saw what Kendrick Perkins said in terms of like him being very disappointing.
Oh,
and, like,
I don't even mean that. I think like
having
people that I
taken
actually
back.
do respect in
Like-
the sphere have said it, and like I just don't agree.
Yeah, no, like I get that the counting numbers are down, but his efficiency is way up. He is playing a critical role. He just hasn't taken the leap as a shooter. Like that's it. That's what it comes down to. Like you would not expect the counting numbers to skyrocket when his usage is down because they acquired Donovan Mitchell to play with Darius Garland. Like, yeah, no, breaks my brain. It breaks my brain. You know, that's just not the way basketball works. It just isn't.
It is not.
Yeah. Do you know how many balls?
It's not how development works either.
Do you know how many basketballs are on the court at once, Mark?
Well, if you can count the ones that are backup ones, at least 10. But no, yeah, it's one.
Yeah, it's one. You play with one basketball. Yeah, that's my rant on counting numbers right now. Not telling the tale with Evan Mobley.